In the previous discourse, we spoke about the right resolve as the second step of eightfold path of enlightenment. In this discourse, we will be speaking about the right speech. The recent Buddhist teachings speak about absenteeism. It says that we need to avoid lying, divisive speeches, abusive speeches, and idle chattering. This could be good from sociological perspective. However, Buddhism is much deeper. It is the science which can make you the God. Hence, such sociological advices might not be enough if we imagine Buddha talking about it. Many a times Buddha kept quiet because his audience would not be able to comprehend his answers. Hence, it is very big injustice to assume that merely absenting from various type of speeches was the mere teaching. From the perspective of Sanatana Dharma, let us understand what right speech could be. I told you that amongst 5 Pandavas, Bhim was the son of Vayu, and he is one of the Pandavas depict tongue or the sense of speaking. It is hence important for you to understand what right speech is. And Buddha would not be talking about the sociological aspects of speech, but he would be definitely talking about internal monologue that we have, the internal talks that we do. These internal talks are very deep and play an important role in shaping up and building up your character. To understand right speech, we have to understand this character called Bhim or Theseus in the Greek mythology. Both of them are the same. Since the topic is long, I will omit Theseus for the time being and talk only about Bhim predominantly. You have to understand this Bhim. Right in the childhood, Bhim was quarrelsome. He used to fight not only with Kaurav brothers but also with the Pandavas. He used to eat away their food. The internal monologue, the internal speeches that you give to yourself, the internal chatting is like that. If it is not groomed properly, it can be one of the biggest occupier of your mind. Many a times your internal voice begin to replicate your mind. But Bhim was not only taught by Dronacharya, he was also taught by Kripacharya, and all of the Pandavas were taught by 2 tutors, the Dronacharya and the Kripacharya. So together, the internal talk is not only representation of your conscious mind, but it represents your feeling about a particular subject. As I was telling you about Pratitya, Pratitya means feeling, which comprises of data from mind as well as subconscious mind. Hence, Bhim is the internal voice of yourself. So in the childhood, he was quarrelsome. Duryodhan poisoned him. And what does that mean from psychological perspective? Anger poisons the voice. You begin to talk negative to yourself. I am literally not much bothered about what you talk to outside world. I am bothered about what you talk to yourself. Are you doing your own criticism? Are you talking negatively to yourself? Are you talking aggressively to yourself? Most of the psychological problems like depression are because of this. Wisdomless person talks negative to himself, blames himself, and puts him into psychological disorder, which may result into depression. So in the childhood, your internal speeches, your internal voice, your internal chatting has to be nurtured. You have to sink in the river called Ravi. Bhim sank in the river called Ravi. As he went down in the Netherlands, a king named Vasuki gave him potion, and this was sweet. Bhim drank a lot of them, became very powerful. He got a strength of 10,000 elephants and also enjoyed the sweetness of that potion. This necessarily means that you have to be powerful in your internal speaking. You have to be sweet to yourself. Your words should mean to yourself. You cannot just criticize yourself. You have to talk positive, strong, and sweet to yourself. And this is one of the takeaways of right speech. Let's go further. As the Bhim grew, what did he do? He killed two demons. One demon was Bakasur and another demon was Kirmira. If you are acquainted with Hindi, there is a word called bakwas, which means useless crap. And Kirmir is something that we generally talk about nonsense. So, as an internal monologue, internal speak, you need to assure that you are not talking crap to yourself. You are not talking nonsense to yourself. This is, I believe, the second takeaway of the right speech. The third takeaway. When you stop talking non-scientific things to yourself, when you stop talking nonsense to yourself, when you stop talking crap to yourself, there is a vacuum. And there was a myth in Mahabharata when Draupadi wanted a particular type of flower. This flower was called Saugandhika flower. These were like lotuses growing in a sacred lake. So Bhim was the one who told Draupadi that he would get it for her. And he went in the pursuit. It was Kuber's lake. And he killed a demon and got the flowers. But while returning, a monkey stopped his way. And this monkey was very, very strong. He looked old, but he was very, very strong. Bhim could not even lift his tail and keep aside. The description of this Saugandhika flower and the entire scene is very familiar from Chinese perspective also. There is a monkey king in Chinese mythologies called Sun Wukong. It is said that Sun Wukong is lying, resting as a stone, and the description of the area where the stone is lying is similar to Saugandhika flower lake. This monkey, the old monkey who Bhim met, was none but Hanuman himself. Hanuman, as I told you earlier, comes from a word called Anuman, which means approximation. Rather than talking illogical and unscientific things to yourself, you can use approximation. You can tell it to yourself that I feel that this is the thing, but I still need to check it out. This Anuman will fill you with faith and enthusiasm. I do understand that it is difficult for people to follow religious mythologies. They have become absolute. It is difficult to talk the same to yourself, but you can approximate. You can accept those mythologies partially with a positive bias. So this is the third takeaway of the right speech teaching of Buddha, wherein you start approximation. You start believing the stories written in any religion, may it be Christianity, may it be Torah, may it be Buddhism, may it be Sanatan Dharma, may it be Islam. Take it with the positive bias. Convince yourself that you do not understand it completely, but you are looking forward to understand the same scientifically. There is no harm. In the further journey, if you look at Bhim's story, he killed a demon called Jatasur. Now, in my one of the previous discourse, I have explained you Jatayu. Jatayu, Jatasur, they all contain a word called Jata, which means entangled hair. Many a times, there are various religions, there are various rituals, there are various cultural perceptions which are absolute now. You can kill them. There is no problem. You kill such Jatasur. You don't take baggage along with you which you don't understand. I told you earlier about approximation, but that does not mean that you take anything non-scientifically. In the last year of exile, Bhim acted like a cook in the Virat's palace. What does cooking mean? Cooking means that you are going to cook your own religion. And this is the religion which you will be convinced and your mind will be convinced and your subconscious mind will be convinced. You have the role to preach yourself the religion that you're cooking. So your internal talks may come up with a brilliant religion for yourself. Cook that. Yet another incident in Virat's palace happened wherein Kichika tried to molest Draupadi and Bhim killed him. I do not want to go too deep into this story, but remind yourself of a character called Kicha in the reference of Sukracharya. And here, Draupadi was called Malini. Please understand the character of Draupadi very well. Draupadi comes from a Greek word Aphrodite. And Aphrodite was venerated as two different goddesses. These two different type of venerations for Aphrodite were Aphrodite Pendemos and Aphrodite Urania. Similarly, Draupadi was called Malini in her previous life. She was a nymphomaniac. Aphrodite Pendemos or Malini depicts sexual attraction, the gross attractions. And Kichika, if you refer back to the story of Sukracharya, you will understand that this is your basic instinct in the blood. So Bhim, as an internal monologue, the internal preaching to yourself, has to work towards sexual sublimation. Now, what is sexual sublimation? This is conversion of sexual energy into spiritual energy. So many thoughts of gross indulgence may come to you, but you have to convince yourself of converting this energy into spiritual energy. The exile was over and Bhim had to win a very big battle. This battle was the battle of Kurukshetra, and Bhim had to defeat all the Kauravas. He had vowed for that. And you will be surprised to see that instead of so many warriors and 4 other brothers of Bhim, Bhim single-handedly killed all the 100 Kauravas. Only one brother was left, and who had already joined Pandavas. So your internal monologue is very, very important. You have to prepare him for the battle of Kurukshetra. Before the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna said that if Jarasandha remains alive, Pandavas had no scope of killing or winning the battle over Kauravas. Bhim and Krishna together killed Jarasandha. And if you look at the mechanism of killing Jarasandha, you will find a great similarity with one of the myths of Theseus in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, there was a robber named Sinis. This robber used to abduct people from the roads and tie him with 2 pine trees. He used to bring together the pine trees, tie this person, and leave the pine trees. By this action, the person would be torn right in the center. It looks very violent. Bhim also did the same. He tore Jarasandha into 2 parts right from the center. This is the way you handle dualism. This is the way you handle doubts. You tear the doubts right from the center, because doubts means your oscillation between 2 types of thoughts. You tear them right in the center by taking the middle path. This is how you kill dualism or doubts. So in my view, right speech is not about how you talk to people in society, but right speech is how you talk to yourself and build yourself for forthcoming journey. And this forthcoming journey is going to be massive. It is going to be the battle of Kurukshetra. You have to win this battle. If you want to have enlightenment, you need to win this. Enough for today. Thank you.